Hey guys, J77, doing another What's News, the first one in 2 weeks. I have said that I was going to come back the following weekend, and now I'm here. Pretty much I was doing a lot of busy stuff that kept me away from the line for a while. I did post a few news articles and reviews, but now I'm pretty much got my schedule somewhat the way I want it. But nevertheless, got some free time in my hand, so now let's get to the news. I picked pretty much 5 articles here. I try to be as brief with each one as possible. Some that I have followed pretty much on a regular. Others that was given to me by friends from online, and as well as me just basically browsing around, seeing what local news around the country has been going on. News that you don't normally hear from New York, but you most likely hear in local areas like Chicago or small towns. So today I got 5 stories. Each one very interesting, some all worthy of talking about. And I might as well start this off. I'm going to start this one off with the dentist. Because this is a very, very important story. And I think it's something that's worth talking about. Especially after hearing this. Hearing this from a friend of mine who gave me this link. And needless to say, this is a story that that pretty much reminds you when you broke up with a person, a loved one. The last thing you want to do, especially if it ended pretty nasty, the last thing you want to do is put yourself in a situation where the loved one, he or she, can get back at you. And in this case, it has happened. I'm talking to a dentist who happens to be an ex-girlfriend of a man who went to see her to do tooth extractions. Well, she did a tooth extraction, alright. She pulled all of his teeth. This report was given by the Huffington Post. It was written by Andy Campbell. I will leave a link below so you guys can check it out yourself. But the story basically says this would happen, I believe, in Amsterdam, where a man, I think his name is, I'm going to go by the name of Marquette, 45, made a mistake of scheduling an appointment with his ex 34-year-old girlfriend, we're going to go by Anna. In this report, it has stated that the perpetrator said that she was trying to be professional and detach herself from emotions, but once she saw him lying there, that just simply went out the window. What ended up happening was that she had put him to sleep and proceeded to remove each tooth one by one. She covered this up by allegedly wrapping a bandage around his head and telling him that he'll be fine once the numbness wore off. It wasn't until he got home and looked in the mirror when he realized he has no teeth left. This whole situation is pretty absurd for this guy, because now his new girlfriend had dumped him because he has no teeth. According to this report, the woman just couldn't see himself dating a man without any teeth. So that just goes to show just how much this new girlfriend actually cared for him. So he's losing either way. According to the reports, the woman is facing 3 years in prison, which I'm also surprised they won't give her more for the alleged stunt, as well as the guy who had all his teeth removed is planning to save money to get I believe dentures or something that could actually allow him to chew again. Here's the thing. I will say this. I'll say this. The guy should have realized that there's still bad blood there. The guy should not have never made a mistake of going to your ex-girlfriend to get your teeth fixed, or to get any kind of oral surgery done on you. For the simple fact is that she is still bitter, especially when you broke up with her. At the same time, this girl should lose her license. That's one. This girl should have faced a more harsh time. That's two. And this girl should be born from any kind of medical or dental practices ever again, because if you let your emotions get the best of you like that, God knows what you could have done with your other patients who may not even be connected to you. So that's my feeling on that. At the same time, I feel, oh man, I just can't believe that went down the way it went down. And this was on the Word files. I heard worse between scorn lovers. This is one of them that's on the high list, because like I said, I can't imagine not going through a day without having any choppers, and I can only imagine what he's going through. This guy I don't know how it is in that country, in Amsterdam. I should have some kind of a system where he can file for damages, especially for what this lady did. There's no excuse for what she did, but like I said, different countries have different rules, so it all depends on what he wants to do falls by that rule. So I guess the only thing I can tell you. But yeah, this was a crazy story that was given to me, and I have to say, it's one of those stories that it definitely makes you be cautious on how you break up with somebody, because if you break up in bad terms, the last thing you want to do is put yourself in a position where that person who you broke up with, whether boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, and wife, can actually do some great damage. Because I've heard some very horrific tales of scorned lovers getting even with their partners, or ex-partners, for this matter, and it's never pretty. And so I hope the guy can actually get something done, but I hope this dentist pays for her inability to control her own emotion and set different aside to do a job. But in any case, I would never have gone to her in the first place. That's just me. That's just my opinion. You guys can leave your own opinions on the comment section, as well as you want to check out the article. I will have a link for that for you guys to check out. I'm gonna shift gears now. I'm gonna head towards something close to home. I'm gonna be going a little back and forth. This one, this struck me a few days ago. I've been following this for a while, and for those, this is very serious, especially for those who have debt. For those who have debt, and I'm talking about big, small, it doesn't matter. Know your rights and know them quickly. Especially after the news I'm going to talk about here. This is a pretty extended column, so I'm going to try and get to the important jabs, and I will leave a link to this because this is very, very important. I think for those who has dealt with this who have dealt with this before, who have dealt with collecting agencies, especially in certain areas of the state, you might want to get educated on this, because this is something that's been going on, and they're using these tactics. Granted, they're using it illegally in some areas, but they are using it, and people are getting called away in prison for this. And that is this law that is called the debtors law. Now I'm gonna spell out to you as DEBTORS. Now what this law does is that if you owe money, they can put you in jail. and it could be for any kind of amount. Judging from this article, this is perfect example of any kind of amount. Apparently, the country had barred people from going to jail for owing debt, but apparently there are loopholes that the collectors are using as scare tactics. So we'll read one of the stuff that's been going on. This is again, it's been done by Yahoo Finance, but I'm gonna get and the article is done by Alan Shelter of CBS Money Watch, and this is very important. I think that everybody should take serious consideration from. How did a breast cancer survivor, Liza Lindsay, end up behind bars? She didn't pay a medical bill. One of Harrington, Illinois teacher associates was told she didn't owe. Okay, assistant. She didn't owe. I'm sorry about that. She got a $280 medical bill in error. I'm going to keep that in mind, error. And was told she didn't have to pay it. The Associated Press report. But the bill was turned over to the collectors agency, and eventually the state troopers showed up at her home and took her to jail in handcuffs. Although the U.S. abolished dictator prison in 1830, more than a third of U.S. states allow the police to hold people in who don't pay all matters of debt, from bills to health care services or credit cards and auto loans. So it's everything down the board. In part of Illinois' debt collecting part of Illinois' debt collectors commonly use publicly funded court, sheriff deputies, and county jails to pressure people who owes even a small amount to pay up, according to Associated Press. Under the law, dictators isn't arrested for non-payments, but rather for failing to respond to a court hearing, pay legal fines, or otherwise showing contempt in court. In connection with the creditors' lawsuit, that loopholes has lawmakers in Illinois House of Representatives concerned enough to pass a bill in March that would make it illegal to send residents of the state to jail if they can't pay a debt. The measure awaits action in the Senate. Okay. This is why I say strongly to know your rights when it comes to a situation like this. And to also never take someone who you talked on the phone or talked to face to face at just their word. Have it done in paper. Have it put it down that they fixed the situation, they're aware of the situation. Here's your documented proof. So that way you're covered. Because I got news for you. And this is something that's going on not only in New York, but in other states as well. People are lazy enough that they will not fix the error in the computer. They will just let the computer do what the hell they want. The computer will transfer it to whatever agency that handles their businesses, and to them the computer says you owe them money. They're going to get their money. This is a tactic, and according to this report, that a lot of the collectors have been using. This is a scare tactic. They're putting people in jail to scare them into paying. They say if you don't pay this, you're going to go to jail. And we'll continue to do that. This is what they're doing is technically illegal. All right, at least in New York, I know it is illegal in New York, and collectors have been having serious lawsuits against this. One lady have actually sued and won because they was using tactics such as harassment on the phone, to the point where it gotten so bad that they was forwarding police stations to get to make it assume that it was coming from them when it was really not. Creditors, these collectors are very, very vicious at times. They really won't pay because when they do this kind of stuff, and my professor have explained to me, they didn't pay much to get that bill. Keep in mind, once you don't pay the bill, whatever company you owe the money, they sell it to the collectors. those the collectors now are going to try and make money. They're going to make money 3 times, 4 times as much from harassing you, getting money from you. And sometimes they don't follow the laws that keeps them in check. They really don't. Here's the thing against here is something I wanted to read up to you. This is very important. Debt collectors typically avoid filing suit against dictators. A representative with the Illinois Collectors Association told the AP, Associated Press, a consumer that has been arrested in jail can't pay a debt. We want to work with the customers to resolve the issue, he said. In some cases, yes, I agree that there are some areas, there are some agencies, more so than the agency that help get you the credit or the loan. They don't want to see you go into debt. Some of the agencies will call you up, will arrange an appointment to talk about the situation, talk about this, talk about the extent of the situation, and in doing so, they can communicate with the people that you owe money to, or even the debt collectors, to try and get it postponed until situations get resolved. The problem is a lot of people, and I'm noticing that with college loans, they don't communicate back with the schools or the loan agencies or anything else, and it gives the collectors a bad impression that they're trying to avoid their payments. Everybody has debt. They may have just lost their job. They may have, they gone fallen into some bad times, or the interest rate is just too high that they can't pay it. But ignoring the situation is not going to help either. And I can understand where what he's saying about them trying to help, because they called me one time. They said, look, my college called me, and we sat down, had a meeting, because I've been went through some hard time, and they was able to work with me where they can cut down the debt in half, or just basically give me more time so I can get back on my feet. So there are places that do work with someone if they can able to communicate, but that's not always the case. In many cases, the collecting agencies, they don't believe in working with others, and they can become a pain when it comes to trying to talk to them in a civilized manner. Yeah, Illinois isn't the only state where residents get locked up for owing money. In 2010, reportedly, an American Civil Liberties Union had focused on only 5 states: Georgia, Louisiana, Michigan, Idaho, and Washington, found that people were being jailed at increasingly alarming rate over legal debt. Cases range from woman who was arrested for 4 separate times for failing to pay a $251 in fines and a court cost related to a 4th-degree misdemeanor conviction, to a mentally ill juvenile jail by a judge over a previous conviction of stealing school supplies. Interesting. According to the ACLU, the state truth is the sad truth is that dictator prisons are flourishing today, more than 2 decades after the Supreme Court prohibited imprisonment for those who are too poor to pay legal debt. In an shrinking budget, state and local governments have turned aggressive to using the threats of reality imprisonment to squeeze revenue out of the poorest defendants who appeared in their courts. And this is the problem. This is a very, very serious problem, because the people who are being put to jail are the ones who are too poor to pay, or just simply can't pay because they lost their jobs, which I kind of find it funny, because those who have owes a massive amount of debt, like the higher rich class, don't see jail at all, which I'll get back to that in a little while. Some state also applies property penalties, including late fee payments, plan fees, and interest when people are unable to pay all their debts. Once, according to the report by the New York University Bennett Center of Justice. Alabama charged a 30% collection fee for insurance, while Florida allows private debt collectors to add 40% surcharge on original debt. Some Florida countries also use a so-called collection court, where dictator can be jailed but have no right to a public defender. That's ridiculous. That's Florida for you, though. Something about that state. The more I look at it, the more I want to stay away from it. Many states are imposing new and often obvious user fees on individuals with criminal convictions. The author of the Senate report wrote, "Yet far from being easy money, these fees impose severe and often hidden costs on communities, taxpayers, and then the people convicted of crimes. They create a new path to prison for those unable to pay their debt, and makes it harder to find employment and housing, as well as meet child support obligations." So the double-edged sword, that's basically what they want to say. And that's basically what's going on. They're passing these laws, and they're not even actually putting aside the fact that they may actually cause more harm than good. But then again, you gotta ask who they're passing these laws on. It ain't the rich, I tell you that. Such practices heightens in recent years by affecting of the recession amount of criminalization properly, says cities are urging federal authorities to intervene. More people are unemployed, and more people are struggling financially, and more creditors are trying to get their debt paid. And that's the article there, which is kind of sad that a lot of states are doing this. It's kind of sad that a lot of places have even made it almost impossible to defend yourself on this situation. But until people are aware of this, until people know their rights on these situations, they're going to continue doing this. Which they shouldn't, because there actually is a law on file saying you can't do that. And this is the perfect reason why. And they're targeting the most people who are most viable, the most helpless, which is the poor and those who are trying to get back to community but simply can't because of laws constantly put in their way. Again, everybody has debts. Everybody have a reason why they're in debt, but that doesn't go on to mean that they have to do such practices. Because I tell you again, collectors are sometimes the hardest people to deal with. And they got to the point that they actually using legal tactics. Again, I always stress the lady actually took one of them to court and won for a collection bill that she did not owe. And they didn't listen to her. They continued to harass her, and she took them to court and won. And she won a very large amount, but she even herself said that she may never see that money come to be. But it wasn't about the money. It was about taking a point. Don't mess with me. And I think that's the whole thing. I think people who are in debt, no matter what that is, because I gotta tell you, it's not just the large amount of money. People assume that it's the large amount of money. No, this is $200, $100 debt, stuff that is petty. Know your rights, and most importantly, if you know you don't owe any debt, make the person who gave you that, that bill, put it in writing that this was resolved, this was cleared, and that the person don't own. So that way, when anybody comes to you, you can say, well, I paid my bills, I didn't owe anything, here's my proof. And by the way, check your computers next time. Because we're living in an age where, sadly, no one checks the computers to make sure they're accurate. They just type something in, and the computer does all the work, and no one doesn't take the time to actually check and make sure that whatever they program in the computer is accurate to what actually is on print. We've gotten lazy because of the computer at times, and sometimes technology doesn't help in our favor, especially in cases like this. But again, all I can tell you about this is be mindful, be very, very careful. Know your rights, but most importantly, make sure you read the fine print of what you have in terms of debt, and in terms of the agreement that you guys made with the banks or schools or whatever it is that you're borrowing money from. And if there's somebody who wants to communicate, always keep communication with the people. That way you can work out something. That way they know that you're not trying to get out on debt. Work with the people, especially when they want to work with you and try to resolve or give you more time to pay off that debt. But basically, not answer the phone, because that's going to make matters a lot worse. Again, you guys may have your own opinion. Please put it in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you guys on this matter. I will leave a link to this report because I think it's a very important report. And you guys express yourself on this topic. Here's one I have to talk about because I had followed this for a while. This was reported on my news channel in New York, ABC News. This was reported on the Young Turk website. This was reported on a lot of virtual blogs. Many people was angry about this. I was angry about this. A lot of news media expressed their upset about this. And it involves something that was going on a while ago in California, which finally there has been some sort of closure, not in terms of the case, but in terms of how the prosecutors actually handled this situation involving this case. And believe me when I say this was the most horrible decision that the prosecutor ever could have done, and any chances of this poor woman ever testifying against her alleged attacker is pretty much in jeopardy right now. This involved an alleged rape victim. She was detained for 20 days because she was a witness, and they were afraid that she may leave town or may not testify, so they detained her because that was the best way to protect her. They basically put her in jail. That was a real smart move. In any case, this was reported all over the news, and finally, after nearly 3 weeks in a youth detention center, the 17-year-old was actually finally released with an apology from the presenting judge. It's in the article, and by the way, this article is given, I believe, by the Huffington Post. I'll leave a link below. It was done by Colin Carey, I believe that's his name, Kerry Collins, I'm sorry. And it goes like this: after nearly 3 weeks in custody in the youth detention center in California, a 17-year-old alleged rape victim was finally released today with an apology from the judge. I am truly sorry for all that you have been through, Sacramento County Judge Lawrence Brown told the teen, who was held as a material witness in a case against her alleged rapist. ABC News affiliate KXTV reports. The teen had previously skipped court dates in which she was expected to testify against the man she said raped her in an incident. Attorneys raped her and enticed the attorneys to serve her with a warrant and keep her in custody to ensure that she would be able to testify in the future. The last thing we ever wanted to do was put the victim or the witness in custody, but when you have a serious crime of violence and multiple offense, you have to balance the protection of the community here. Sacramento County Assistant Attorney Albert Logan said early this month. And I got something. I'll say something about this because I have a very strong beef with that. I really, really do. This is not the first time a district attorney have done something this, and it may actually cost him the case, and I'm pretty sure that's going to cost him the case, regardless of what he says. But I'll hold back until I read a little bit further. The teen was released on the condition that she will be monitored by a GPS system, but her location will be kept confidential. Prosecutors was forced to refile charges against the alleged rapist Frank Williams after the teen skipped out on a preliminary hearing on February 28th. The new trial has been set for April 23rd, when the alleged victim was once again expected to testify. The DNA was found on the teen after her rape examination, prosecution said. According to the Associated Press, the ex-convict has a criminal history that dates back to 1992. Was previously arrested for rape. According to a court document, those charges were dropped. Washington said that the teen victim testimony was credited and potential public safety issues. Basically, what they say is they didn't want him to escape again. Is to let go on charges of her clients and was preventing the girl from moving on with her life. Okay, hold on a second, guys. I must skip a sentence somewhere. I'm going to try and find it. I'm going to read it again. Lawyer said the teen victim testimony was impervious and cited the potential public safety issue if Marcus is likely is let go on charges. The teen attorney Liza Francis did not return calls for comment. Okay, she previously told ABC News that the detention of her client was preventing the girl from moving on with her life. She needs to be released. It was the only way she can start moving on and stop being victimized and move on with her life after what happened to her, Frisco said. Okay, I'm going to leave a link below on this report so you guys can read it yourself. It is a very short article, but it is something that has, again, been reported to in the news. I'm just going to say it right now. The prosecution didn't give a damn about the victim. Alright? He cared about getting conviction, and only conviction by any means necessary. Period. This has happened before with a case. It was a very famous case a long time ago, and it was all about fame, it was all about glory, it was never about the victim. And that ended up costing not only his conviction, but it actually cost him his job in New York. So that's one. Two, we need to ask the question about this whole thing. Because granted, they did say that she did skip out on a court date. That didn't make the prosecution very happy. And that the fact that that forced him to file new charges. But the question is, why did she skip out on the date? Keep in mind, she's a teenager who is scared to death of a situation that she doesn't know how it's going to turn out. Keep in mind, that's the whole thing you got to understand. And to treat her like she is a criminal when you already know she's been through a traumatic situation, it ain't helping. It's just not. Now, according to the report, she's on a GPS system. She's basically is going to be monitored. But the question is she really going to testify against this person? Will she be reluctant to testify against this person? And that's the thing that I think that the prosecution really need to think long and hard. Because to me, I don't even think it's about her concern or her safety. I just think it's about him enhancing his career. I could be wrong. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I think he's trying to enhance his career. I've seen it before. I've seen terrible stories about it before. And Lord knows California had their own story this year, especially after happening years ago, and they're still talking about it today with that director who actually fled town after the judge decided to make a name for himself and basically backed away on a deal that would have landed him in jail even more, and because of that, he basically skipped town. Do I think he's a guardian angel? Hell no, but like I said, sometimes these prosecutors and these judges and these lawyers, they don't look out for the best interests of the clients they're supposed to serve. They only look out for themselves. And unfortunately, I feel that that's what's going on with the prosecution here. Maybe I'm wrong. You guys can comment on that, but that's how I see it with that story, as I read it and hear how everything unfolds. But to me, that's how I'm gonna take it. But again, she is being monitored. She's not like she's free out the woods. She is being monitored. It's just now a question of, will she be able to go to that courtroom and testify, or will she basically not say anything at all? It still remains to be seen. But you guys give your own feelings on that topic. By all means, comment as much as you want on that. Like to hear your own feelings on that. But like I said, I feel that prosecutor, that assistant prosecutor, really wasn't thinking about the teenage youth or how traumatized the teenager was. He was just thinking about getting eviction by any means necessary. And sometimes when you have a prosecutor like that, they can end up boxing the case than helping. Just saying. I've seen stories about it happen. I've seen it happen in New York. So I'll just leave it at that. Let's go on to this report here. I've got two more stories. This one I definitely need to talk about. KFC has gotten sued, and now they are ordered to pay $8.3 million to an Australian girl. This story I followed for a couple of days. Kentucky Fried Chicken has been ordered to pay this money due to the fact that the girl has suffered severe brain damage and was paralyzed after eating a Twister wrap. This was done due to link to food poisoning that also left her with a blood infection and a septic shock, I think that's what they call, on October 2005. So this is just ended. It's been around for a long time. Several other family members also fell ill, and they claim Shanna's injuries, which include severe conjunctive, motor, and speech impairment. This is all from a Twister wrap. Wow. A New South Wales Supreme Court ruled in the family's favor a week ago, and on Friday ordered KFC to pay the girls $8 million in damages plus legal costs. Woo. In a statement, the family's lawyer George Valken said they were relieved the battle was over. Last week, KFC have intended they will appeal the decision, but is yet to do so. I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think they're going to do it. I think they're going to let it go. During the trial, and Stephen Wolfman said the chicken became contaminated because the failure of one or more employees of KFC to follow the proper preparation rules, and which he described as neglected. You gotta follow those rules, especially when you have exposed food out there. If it's exposed for any longer than that, the food becomes easily contaminated. I mean, that's definitely a question. But I didn't know that. I know food poisoning do have some damages like salmonella, stomach virus, flu. I know it can be deadly, but wow, I didn't know it was that deadly. I'm glad that at least that settlement has been done, and I hope the family can now start the process of getting the girl the medical attention she definitely needs. But yeah, food is something that cannot be taken like a joke. It's one of the reasons why New York is very strict on their food and sanitation rules, which a lot of restaurants here is bitching and crying about. But in all fairness, I happen not to have a problem with the grading system, which we do have. We have a grading system A, B, C, and F. which I haven't seen nobody get an F yet. If you get an F, pretty much it closed down. So I did see a few C's, I did see a few B's. But the important thing is that when it comes to food, you got to be extra special careful, especially how it's prepared, how it's cooked. You just can't assume that everything is alright. If it looks moldy, throw it out. A lot of these restaurants have had problems and had serious sanitation issues where not only even food neglected, but sometimes replace the food with something that is unhealthy just to save money. And as a result, people have gotten sick and people actually have died because of sanitation and how the food was not properly prepped. Kentucky Fry is definitely no stranger to that. No restaurant is no stranger to it. And unfortunately, even though I'm happy that they won the lawsuit, there's no money in the world is going to bring back that girl's health. This girl, her life has been completely altered from a Twister rap. So it's just mind-boggling how that all happened. Again, you guys may feel that this was too much, and you guys felt that the Kentucky Fried Chicken should appeal it, which they said they intended to appeal, but they had to do so. I don't think they're going to appeal it. I think they're going to let it go. This has run for 2002. They really want to continue fighting this in court. To me, no, I'm sorry, 2005. It's 2012. They're just gonna probably let it rest. They don't need any more negative publicity as they all do, and I'm pretty sure they are the people who haven't done a good job in terms of following the rules and regulations and how the food is properly prepped, how the food is properly kept in storage. It's pretty much not going to be there anymore. They should not be there anymore, and just pay it off, and that way that family can get the medical treatment, because she's going to be going through constant medical treatment, and believe me, it's not pretty. So to me, they should just let that thing go. But I will leave a link to the story below. You guys can check it out. It's from the Associated Press. You guys could read it. You guys give your own opinion on it, and you guys get to comment on it. Last but not least, this one I'll save for last for a reason. This one I save for last for a reason. It's a local news. Oh no, actually I got two stories here. I have to deal with this story. I can't let this one go. But as a local news, so I might as well talk about this local news. This is involving my area. I have mentioned this before with a friend of mine. We talked about this, and me and him agreed that the mayor of New York City, along with the transit authorities, need to start taking a better look at their subway system, because violence in the subways have skyrocketed to a ridiculous rate, whereas now it's on the news almost every day. Like, you hear one incident in the news about what's going on in the subways, and people are starting to get a little worried, especially with this one. This article involves a teenager who was critically injured in a brutal stabbing Saturday after he had walked on the 4 train in the Bronx and find his friend's pocket slash iPhone stolen, and his iPhone stolen. Police sources said that the two buddies started arguing with another subway rider around 4 a.m. after realizing the expensive gadget was gone. A bloody fight broke out on the subway and spilled into the subway platform at the Fordham Road stop. The teens was stabbed multiple times in the head and chest, authority says. The 9th teen was taken to the St. Bonaventure Hospital in critical condition. Police and cops are searching for the suspects. In the grisly fight was on the only late bit of brutality over a trendy electronics. 2 colleagues crooks were charged Friday with shooting dead a Bronx chief to get his iPhone. These iPhone mans, they're getting crazy with this iPhone. I mean, this is getting ridiculous. They gotta own one. But in my opinion on this, yeah, the subway system is getting a lot of hand, and that's largely because But they have slashed a lot of police presence from being down there. There's not enough police presence down there, and those who do have police presence are the ones that has the most traffic. Name like 42nd Street. You see them there. You'll see them at 34th Street near Mascot Garden because they're constantly there. They're constantly monitoring that train because not only you have the train system there, but you have the PATH trains as well as Long Island Railroad traveling in that area. So you're gonna see a lot of areas. Those kind of areas have police presence, but there are also other areas that do not. And the ones that you really want to have are the ones who don't, or those who are not, have the high traffic, because anything can happen in those areas. Pickpocketing has been up in subways, and they're doing this while people are actually resting their eyes, or it takes us 1 second and their stuff is gone. You have fatalities, people committing suicides on these trains. A lot of stuff has been on the rise, and although the MTA have said these are isolated incidents, there's only so much you can take before people are going to start to say, all right, you're not doing what you got to do. They put a new system there that doesn't work. I don't care what anybody says. If you're insulting, you're not pressing a button, because it's a matter of seconds that they have. They took out the token booth clerks a lot. A lot of these places no longer have token booths anymore, which makes it even more dangerous, because now there's no one there present to monitor what's going on. They do have cameras, I will say that, but a camera is not going to replace a human presence there. It's just not. All you have is basically a monitoring system, and that's it. It's a false sense of security. And for the MTA's concern, to me, I take the subways on a frequent. I do want to be safe on those subways. I understand you have some idiots every now and then. You have the guys who like the panhandling and for asking for money. Annoying as they may be, I still I can somewhat deal with that. What I can't deal with is sitting down and next thing I know I'm seeing a fight broke out, and God forbid somebody has a weapon and that person gets stabbed. Especially after the stuff that's been going on the last few years, because it's gotten worse because of the cuts. The cuts they're starting to feel the effects of the cuts, and it's just gotten very, very bad. And I hope that Bloomberg, as well as the commissioner of the MTA, really start taking this seriously and really start really evaluating the possibility of getting more police presence on the areas that simply do not have it and simply do need it. But that's my opinion. You guys may have a different opinion on it. Please let me know. I'd like to hear what you guys' thoughts on the matter. Now, this is the last article. I do apologize because I actually had one more article. I almost forgot about that one. This one I say for last for a reason, because it's a prime example of why I always questioned these schools when they do things like this, and whether or not we don't have real teachers who know how to deal with students who have certain disability or certain problems that need extra special attention. And this is involving a teacher who finally was placed on leave of absence after his dad took a stand and wired his autistic son to record school bullying. Now, you may think that this is like the students doing this, but it's not the students. These are actual administrators, teachers, grown-ups who are actually doing the bullying. And it is 10 times worse when for people who are supposed to have your children's best interest in heart when in terms of education and safety, is administrating something that can be very, very damaging. And I say this for last for a lot of reasons. There's people in certain states, senators, who simply don't understand how serious bullying has become. They believe that it's still the 1980s and 70s where bullying was common, and that everybody had bullied in their life and some people have turned out okay. This is not 1970, this is not 1980, this is 1990, and bullying has gone to a whole new level, and people need to start recognizing that This cannot continue, especially when you have adults doing it. There's no room for that. There's no room for that ever. And the reason why I say it, because a lot of people still think that this is, the way of life. The reason why it's the way it is because, number one, we allow it, and we can no longer allow it. And the reason why a lot of Congress are trying to back away from this situation is because they really don't feel the need to make new laws on this matter. I kind of find it funny because they make laws on other stuff that's not important, but when it comes to something that's actually serious, they seem to shy away from that. But in any case, this article here really struck home, and for me, it's another example of people not understanding what autistic really means. I'm going to read a little bit of this. I will leave the link to this article so you guys can check it out yourself. So I will begin. A teacher who oversees a courtroom where a father said his autistic son was verbally abused by adults have been placed on paid leave, according to a district official. The boy's father, Stewart, I'm just going to let you name it, posted a clip on YouTube days ago of a secretly recorded audio that caught one adult calling his autistic 10-year-old son a bastard at Horace Men's Elementary School in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. A lawyer of the teacher, Kelly Abundant, had denied that she was in the classroom. Well, where the hell were you? And why were you not in the classroom? Why were you not in the classroom? That's something that they're not going to ask. When the abusive remark was made, and said that the investigation by the district also find that Amanda was not present. Official says one school aide resigned, another was put on leave, and a substitute aide was not invited back. The administration administration's the allegations. They abbreviated for some reason. That's not me. That's actually the article. I don't know why they did it like that. Cherry Hill superintendent said that she put Auburn on leave to minimize the disruption of our school. Speakers of the new conference on Friday, lawyers Matthew Linden said that is an indicted special education teacher, is a dedicated special education teacher of 23 years who did not know about the comments until she was contacted by district officials about the converted recording, and after Clinton posted his first recording on Facebook, did not condone the comments they said. Let me just make sure I get my thoughts together, because the more I read this thing, the more it drives me nuts. Okay, I'll be brief because it's a long list, and I'm not going to go down the whole list. I will pretty much say this. Where were you, and where was your assistant teacher? Do you have an assistant teacher? And how long were you out of the class to not know what was going on? That's the whole thing that bothers me about this whole case. 2, this is very important. This must not have been the first time, because if the father has to go as far as recording a conversation that's going on in your class, obviously this has happened before. So I say again, where were you? You're telling me that you was out of class the whole time when this thing happens to come out? How long had you been out that allows this to happen constantly? I mean, come on now. There's something way off about this whole thing. I'm really kind of curious on why is it that you are not aware of these things happening. In the case around the country, suspicious parents have been taking advantage of the inexpensive technology to tell them what children's because their disabilities. They are not able to express their own. The practice can help expose abuse, but some experts say it could also violate rights of other children. That is true. I will say that, and I'll explain in a minute. In a minute. One has said that he sent his son again into school wearing a recording device stashed in his pocket. The father said that the tape revealed teachers at the school chatting and marking archons in a class that contained only children with autism who have trouble communicating. Chaz took the step after getting report earlier in the school year that his son was being violent. Hitting teachers and throwing chairs were out of character for the boy, who speaks but has serious difficulty expressing himself. Shelton said he talked to the school officials and had his son mate with the behaviorists, that they have no explanation as to why Evans was acting. He just knew he has to find out what was happening there, he said. The only option was to put a recorder there. He needed to hear what a normal day was like in there. Not only were acting teacher at Horseman Elementary talking about him being drunk at the school and sex. And crossing about pupils and their parents. They were also taunting, shouting, and swearing at his son. What I heard on that audio was disgusting, vile, and just absolutely disrespectful, and bullying of my son that happened not by other children but by his teachers and the aides. The people that were supposed to protect him, they were literally making my son life a living hell. And of course, he incorporated the troubling recording into 17-minute YouTube clips in which demands a public school from teaching from who threat his sons as if he were subhuman. Cruz, Atkins, who suffers from a learning disability, sometimes talks softly to himself, but when is here doing this at school, he is disturbing audio documents his teachers mocking him and yelling, "Shut your mouth." Yeah, this is a very, very painful, sad story, and I saved it for last for that reason. And you know, you would think that after studies of autism and study of mentally impaired, and me having a brother who is mentally impaired, you would think that people would learn how to deal with this kind of situation. But obviously I was wrong. Obviously there are still people out there who still don't know how to deal with this type of situation. It is very, very sad that I gotta hear stuff like this. And the sad part about it, there are people who are in high power who actually truly don't understand and think the same way these teachers think. They think that because of their disability, that they don't have feelings, that they're not humans, and they should be treated like animals, which they should not. They should be treated with the utmost care and respect, the same way as I or anybody else should be treated with for care and respect. And the fact that you have people here doing this kind of stuff, first of all, they shouldn't be in teaching. I don't care what any type of school to begin with. And two, the fact that the father had to go to this great length and hear the disturbing tapes is sad. It really is sad. I don't know what else to say except that that the people who have done this should lose their jobs. And from according to New Jersey law, they may actually be refiled against charges, because I know Jersey passed a law that makes it a crime for bullying, and no question about it, it is bullying that they're doing. At the same time, that I want to get back to this. The reason why I say that that it may violate the rights of the children is because the guy is recording, and I mentioned this before in a previous video, that some states take that to heart, that you record it without the written permission of a certain agency or group. So that may be a problem, especially if New Jersey has similar laws. I know New York has it here. I know Washington has it. I know certain states have passed it. Recording, there's a certain sense of security, privacy when it deals with that, and you won't probably. And I don't know if the kids' voices are there or not. I don't know if the parents are concerned about that, but it does render a privacy issue, especially in certain states. So, with that being said, I know that that's what they meant by the kid's rights may be violated by him doing that, especially since you wired your son to go into school and record. However, I have to say this: if he probably didn't do it, he probably would never know what was going on, and that's the thing that is a double-edged sword when it comes to that kind of stuff, because he would never know his son was abused like that, and I seriously doubt that the school would probably tell him what was going on. So it's to me, it's pretty much either you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. But to me, obviously there's some truth to it, because the board has been doing it, has been taking actions. People has resigned. People has been told not to come back, and the teacher has been ordered to be on leave. Now, again, I have to stress this: out of all this time, you mean to tell me the teacher didn't sense that was nothing wrong? And again, and I stress again, this is a class that deals specifically with children who suffers from autism, or or mentally impaired. Who did you leave if you left the classroom, who was supervising the students? And how is it that you not know what's going on? Because obviously this was going on for a while. The report said it was going on for a while. How did you not know this was not happening? I mean, come on. If you see a behavior pattern change, normally you'd be concerned about it. Normally you want to know what's going on. Normally you want to ask questions. Don't assume that the person is just acting up just for fake acting up. There's a lot of reasons for that, and I think that they did not, respectfully, that teacher did not do her job. That teacher dropped the ball. She may have not been there when they made those swearing words, but to me, she still is just responsible because she wasn't there. She dropped the ball on that. I just don't understand. But it just may be me being over emotional. Maybe that is. But when I hear stuff like that, it bothers me. It really do, especially for a person who dealt with this situation firsthand. I know how hard it is to deal with a loved one who suffers from those kind of things, and that's the thing that bothers me the most. A lot of these people who are teaching these classes just don't know, or has not been properly trained to deal with this kind of situation. And when you don't have a family member who's going through it, like a particular person on the radio, I'm trying not to say his name, oh the hell with it, Rush Limbaugh, who went on the air and said that autistic kids are nothing but screaming crybabies and need to shut the hell up. It bothers me when you have places that try to ban these people because of their autism ability. It bothers me. Instead of just throwing them out like nothing but outcasts, try to understand the situation, try and help the situation, and try to make it comfortable for these people to be amongst everybody else. I mean, because they're still human beings. And lately I don't get that that a lot of these schools or a lot of these areas like churches, politicians don't seem to understand that. I take that, and it's sad. It's really sad. Very, very sad. But again, that's just my opinion. You guys have a different opinion, of course. That's okay. I'd love to hear from you guys' thoughts on this matter. Leave it all in the comment section. Leave all 6 reports on the comment section. So just leave it there and let me know. So until then, this is J77. Love to hear your comments, love to hear your thoughts. And by the way, before I go, if you guys have any reports that you think that deserve of needed attention and deserve to talk about, leave it on my inbox. I won't guarantee I'll get to them right away, but I'm sure enough that I'll probably put it on this session or just individually. But until then, this is J77 saying take care.